A very good morning to you all, the members of the organizing committee, the scholars, experts, academics, students, NGOs, and everyone. It's a great pleasure and an honor, and I must thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences about this great human tragedy that has started to unfold in India. In fact, Eric was there last year in Barcelona when there was an ICO meeting on epidemiology, and I had a presentation to make. And then we talked about this event which is taking place today. And Florencia, at that moment also, we started talking to each other through emails. And she was very enthusiastic, and she encouraged me to think for coming over here for this meeting, which I think should be a great experience for you all and me as well. Now, I am very much interested in the mining committee. In fact, I was, after return from England, from the London School of Hygiene, I remember those days when one of the most talked about ICO president, Robert Murray, used to be there at London School of Hygiene. He was president of ICO. When I came back, I was not that much into the mining. My more, in fact, concern was about the very low standard of occupational health teaching in India, and that's why I denied the offer by the government of India to head a research organization for occupational health in India, and decided that we must first of all train physicians. And some 10 years back, the government of India set up a committee which is now very much functioning. The role of this committee is to give permission to all the mining projects. Without approval of our committee, no mining activity can start in India. So that's another side of my work which makes me take interest in this issue. If you Google my name in some 10 years back, there will be 1 million pages on me. 60% of all those pages about asbestos only. And I thought that, and I still think and believe that asbestos is going to be a great issue in times to come. And as you all know, that the one very stark difference between the asbestos and silica is that there is no acuteness about asbestos, whereas silica can kill within months, and we have had that in India. So some years back, some NGOs came to me, and they said they were very concerned about the mining workers. There is nobody to look after them. They just die silently, and there are lots of widows. And so I had them. We did a small survey. So this presentation is has that story about how this work actually started in India. So this is how I wish to go about my presentation. An introduction about the mining and silicosis in India, then how the national bodies, they intervene to open the eyes of the government and the society about this great public health problem of silicosis. And then the highest court and the highest judiciary in the country, the Supreme Court of India, appointed me a commissioner of inquiry for the state of Rajasthan, which is said to be the most mined state in the country. And that was a great learning experience, and I could utilize the opportunity to offer some suggestions and recommendations. Hopefully, this hearing will take place in the highest court maybe next month, and we are looking for some very radical changes in the way the mines are functioning and the way the protection is offered to workers in India. And lastly, my observation in summary. Well, we have to live with silica. It is there very much after the oxygen, and they both are friends, so they become silicon dioxide. It's everywhere, and that's what causes the main problem. And this partly the presentation covers the great human tragedy which is unfolding slowly in India, especially in the small and medium mining sector. I can say with some confidence that the very large corporate organizations and big mining companies, they do take care of their workers and abide by the law. But even there, I think there is some mischief. Because I sit in this mining committee, my experience is that there are about 15 experts in this committee: air pollution, water pollution, biodiversity, and everything that you can think. I find that the least knowledge the proponents have when they have to make a presentation before us is the occupational health. And I think the least amount of fund is allocated for the worker protection and occupational health and safety of mine workers. And India, you know, is a very large country, a very diverse country, and in fact, we have no records, no good system of record keeping, no databases. So exactly we do not know the numbers. But many of the NGOs, and I also personally believe that when the final count is done, this is going to probably cost hundreds and thousands of lives, making Bhopal tragedy look very trivial or small. That's the scale of tragedy that is unfolding. And the government of India statistics itself maintains that about the 400 or 500 million workers in India, only about 8% work in organized. So most of these workers who are working in this mining and other areas, they have very little law to protect them, and consequently there is a little occupational health and safety that is offered to them. They are on their own. So silicosis has been, as our previous speaker said, has been on the agenda of the World Health Organization, and it is actually the crystalline form which is the deadliest, leading to inflammation and scarring and ultimately the terrible condition of silicosis. And we have had all these cases. I mean, I know when we did the survey, they would not have been able to talk to me. They were so breathless and so listening. And it is, contrary to popular belief, silicosis, diagnosis of silicosis is not all that easy. I share with you the feelings and observations of the pneumoconiosis board that have been set up in the state. The only option that we have is to prevent it. And unless there is a good deal of effort and to suppress the dust, there is no way you can prevent silicosis. That is my experience. In fact, when I was going to WHO, it's a very long name: pneumono ultramicroscopic silico volcano coniosis. That is the actual name of it. I don't think I'll ever remember it, or anyone of you can remember it. And the problem is that despite all the efforts, of course I must say that the efforts are very minimal in the small and medium mining sector in India, it still remains a worldwide problem. And the number of workers who are affected by this runs into several millions. Now, I happened to be very fortunate to be invited by the Geneva for a very historic meeting which took place in 2009. And our mandate was to prepare the global list of occupational diseases. So I remember in that meeting, which was held in October 2009, this is on the web, you can actually, anyone can access that report, the new list of occupational diseases by International Labour Organization. So we identified 4 conditions attributable to crystalline silica exposure: silicosis, tuberculosis, COPD, and lung cancer. No, I studied in England, and under the British law, if I remember correctly, the tuberculosis is taken as an occupational disease only for two occupations, the miners and the healthcare workers, and COPD and lung cancer. In fact, I remember in that meeting I was actually included as part of the workers team. There are 7 workers, 7 employees represented, 7 government representatives. And of course, the room was full. There were 100 people, but only the 21 members. Thank you. And so, a point of discussion came. We wanted to maintain that if a person has given a history of work in mining and has given a clear-cut history of exposure to crystalline silica, and then he has come off the work and later on goes to develop lung cancer, and there are no radiological opacity, should it be regarded as a lung cancer attributable to his past exposure to crystalline silica? So I remember that we had almost half a very heated argument on this. The employer side opposing it, and our workers group very strongly defending it that once the exposure has occurred, and as we all know that there should be zero exposure to all carcinogens, it should be taken. However, we couldn't succeed, and there were some compromises made on some other, in some other place. So, in 1997, I think, if I remember correctly, IARC classified crystalline silica as the class 1 carcinogen. But unfortunately, under our Indian law, we don't call this as occupational disease because it's notifiable disease. The only condition accepted which is attributable to crystalline silica exposure is silicosis, not others. And I think the good news is, as I will tell you towards the end of my presentation, that one of the fallout of my being commissioner of this inquiry by the highest court is that we are hopeful that we have very strongly betted that tuberculosis for any mine worker should be declared an occupational disease, and I am very hopeful that the highest court in the country will accept, and that will lead to revolutionary change for the worker protection. And you all know that there is a 2006, the International Labour Organization and World Health Organization launched this global program for elimination of silicosis. In the records of the both WHO and ILO, India is named that as one of the participating countries, but unfortunately that's not true. All the elements of this GPS program which should be in place are not there in India. So I think though the name is there, but the complete story is still not there. This is the roughest. This is an underestimate, because the 3 million figures is a very, very gross underestimate, because there's so much of illegal mining in India and so much of informal mining that people just don't know. But the official statistics is that 3 million workers are exposed to silica, and there's the number of now, because of India is trying to create a good infrastructure. So there are many, many more actually they are involved in the construction, and they are at great risk of exposure to crystalline silica. In fact, I know I have been working with some German interest groups in India who have held a number of workshops and training programs to sensitize the construction, big construction companies and the trade unions in India. And I think ISA is also involved in that activity, because construction in India is going to be one of the biggest challenges in times to come. Mining will always, of course, remain. And tuberculosis is the main actually complication reported in these workers. And in fact, there are sporadic research papers they have reported silicomycosis, lung cancer, and connective tissue disorders also. In fact, it was the National Human Rights Commission and our highest Supreme Court. They have made now several recommendations, and we expect more for preventing these silicosis and also the rehabilitative measures. As per our, we have 29 states, but there are 7 these states where actual inquiries were held. They are notorious for silicosis because there is very large scale mining. There is the state of Rajasthan where I conducted the inquiry. I'll tell you more about the kind of the numbers that we have on the record. In 1999, the Indian Council for Medical Research also acknowledged there are 3 million workers and 1.7 million said to be at the risk. Now, these are the figures. The interest in silicosis has been quite old in India. It's nothing new. It's only the prevention and the control that has been or that was neglected all through. So they will have gold mines. These mines are no more functional now, but I think very high percentage of South African gold mines also have recorded very high incidence of silicosis. But one big difference between India and South Africa is that in South African gold miners, apart from silicosis and tuberculosis, HIV is a big issue. That fortunately has not happened in India. We have not come across cases of HIV in workers in India. There are very, very rare cases, but not the kind of problem that you have in South Africa and some of the African countries and other parts of the world. That's good news. So mica is a very mineral which is mined in India. India produces very high quality of mica. I was going through the records. Last year, India exported 10 times the mica that the official figures reported, which means the 90% of mica was mined illegally. There was child labor, there are all kinds of problems. So these are the figures of various, India has all kinds of mining. This is another, like in foundry, in slate pencil. That's another story, slate pencil. There is a place known as Mandsaur in central India where the researchers have actually come across a lady who married 5 times. That used to happen in medieval times. All her 5 husbands perished while working in the mine. So it has been reported by the media also. This was, you see, 40 years back that was reported. That in mini Bhopal it was compared. One state, one place, imagine the kind of issue that is there in India. So this report talked of only one district, that if that district can create a mini Bhopal, imagine what will be happening all over. That's the scale of exposure to silica and the silicosis. So mining has been there in India for a very long time, even before the Britishers came. But after the independence in 47, the government decided that they must have some rules. So a Mines Act and rules were made in 1952, and it covers all kinds of mining: onshore mining, offshore mining, surface mining, underground mining. Every mining activity is covered under this act. Now, this environmental impact assessment just started about 10 years back. Before, there was nothing like environment. Under this, I sit on this committee as an expert on occupational and environmental health, and my mandate is to get assured by the proponents that the measures and the steps they have taken are adequate for the protection of not only workers, but also the community around. Because we have had reports that whenever a new project starts in India and anywhere, there are a lot of injuries. Many villagers, they succumb to the injuries due to these heavy duty trucks which carry the mineral and ore, and the dust flies. They use blasting techniques. Several houses have developed cracks. So all sorts of problems. So my job is to make sure that the measures that they have proposed would be adequate and sufficient to protect the workers and community. Otherwise, I just put my foot down and said, no, I won't agree unless you come up with a complete plan of protection. And so both metallic and non-metallic mines are there in India. This is a map. If you see, we have lead and zinc mines, we have bauxite. India actually is now trying to build the largest smelter of aluminum, and this is because we have good reserves of bauxite. We have iron. I mean, India probably, there is I recently visited a mine area in central India, and I was just asked them, there were 9 mountains there, and they told me this is all actually iron. They are not stone, they are all iron. I said, how long you think we'll be able to get iron from these deposits? They said the rough estimate is 500 years. So India has huge deposits of iron. And then there is manganese. It's a very hazardous material, and in fact, I have to be very ruthless when anyone comes and proposes a mining project for manganese. We have had several cases of Parkinson's disease, and because of the poor protection of these workers, there have been reports. One of the greatest neurologists of India, he did a investigation, and he brought this issue to the fore of the government of India, that how terrible the manganese mining is for workers. The gold is not mined that much. I remember we have given permission to 2 proponents to dig out gold. They have found new deposits. And of course, coal, India has one of the largest reserves of coal, but my investigation didn't touch this. You may not see from that distance, but this gives a kind of the in tonnage, the millions of tons of the minerals that are mined in various states. Now, this is the state of Rajasthan where I conducted the inquiry. Out of the 33 districts in this, all 22 districts, they have some mining activity. And right from agate, asbestos, of course, we don't permit now. Asbestos mining has been, but you have the coal, you have lignite, you have dolomite, quartz, and all kinds of minerals. Now, the worst part of the investigation and the reality is that the sandstone, those of you who have been to India and have seen the famous Atat Fort, from where the Prime Minister of India on every Independence Day delivers his Independence Day speech, is made of sandstone. Sandstone is virtually all silica. And this state is notorious for having the largest deposits of sandstone. That's why we have such a terrible tragedy of silicosis. So this story started 2006. This is an area just in the fringes of Delhi, outskirts of Delhi. This is known as Lal Kua, the red well they call it. Some NGOs, they came to us and they said that they have come across people living in this area where everyone in the family suffers from silicosis. And when they take these victims to the chest physicians, they are not prepared to put the label of silicosis. They say, no, this is TB. So they came to me and they say, could you help us out? Because they are now totally disabled. They have nobody to support them. So their idea was that if by an investigation we could label them as cases of pneumoconiosis and silicosis, they would be able to get some compensation and relief. So we agreed. I said, surely we will help them. And this is our mandate. So this is the survey which we actually did, and we found that the tuberculosis was almost 29% in this. There was 20% silicosis, and there was about, many of them had survived. Actually, what was brought to us was the survivor population. And if you see this slide, this X-ray finding, you find that the male workers, they were mainly having the tuberculosis. They are far more than the female workers. Now, why female? Because under the Indian law, the female workers are not allowed in mining. But these families, they live there itself. Where I happened to visit long back in 1992 when these mines were in operation, it was all covered with, even in daytime, there was a lot of dust flying around. So the females, some of them, they worked on these mines, which was not actually allowed. And also because they were living there, so it was a 24-hour exposure, because this mining went on around the clock, even in the night. And this was the, when we did the pulmonary function testing on them, we found both restrictive and obstructive disorders, and very severe restriction also. I remember a lady who was brought to me, she weighed 37 kilograms. And so they were severely anemic and classical symptoms silicosis. So we made a report. This report is also on the web. If you put in the Google search box Lal Kuwa report, you will get this report, full report. So what these NGOs did, they took this report to this highest court of in India, the highest Supreme Court of India, and also to the National Human Rights Commission. And India has a very peculiar constitution that the highest court in the country can take a suo motu action and can actually entertain a single application. So that is what the highest court, they were very concerned, and they were alarmed by the number of deaths. And because at that point of time, the NGOs from the state of Gujarat, they had some cases, so immediately the court can actually direct the government. So 7 crore, which is I think something like $10 million, $11 million relief was immediately given to these victims. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got anything. This was the highest court order last year in 2016, which appointed me a commissioner of inquiry on, the case was between this People's Rights, this is an NGO group, and the Union of India. They petitioned the highest court of India against the government of India that the government is not doing enough to protect the workers. And so they petitioned in two fora, one in the highest court, the Supreme Court of India, and also in the National Human Rights Commission. Now, and so then it caught the media attention, and reports started appearing in the media. The government awakes as silica dust turns a serial killer. The rights body wants aid for silicosis victims. So the Human Rights Commission was very much alarmed. They were very disturbed that nothing is happening, nobody is there to look after these workers, and these workers are silently dying. So these two bodies together, they started issuing directions to the government of India. In fact, they have the power to issue directions to anyone. So the Supreme Court, this National Human Rights Commission also is a creation in last just 10-15 years. And the commission can take a suo motu action, and these are the kind of powers that commission has, that any victim can just approach the National Human Rights Commission and can place before them their grievance, and the commission then will look into it. Their main concern is the violation of human rights. Now, thankfully, the National Human Rights Commission has accepted that not protecting workers in mine or any workplace tantamounts to a gross human rights violation. That's why this story has not changed. Now, the government agencies, the enforcement agencies, they are obliged to take action. There's no way, because where Supreme Court can actually give punishment, can announce imprisonment, National Human Rights Commission can't do that. It's a quasi-judicial body, as we call it. But it is a very powerful body. It can summon the highest official of the government of India and can take them to task. So this is what the NHRC has said, that it is both a health issue and a human rights issue. And it has an impact not only on the right to the life, but also the right to live with dignity of all those affected, because that is pronounced in the Indian Constitution, that every Indian citizen has a right to live with dignity. That's how the commission became so powerful. And they have taken a very serious view of the callous approach adopted by the government. In fact, they have pounded the government that the government has totally neglected this issue. And so in their final judgment, which is still, I think, to be revised, they have set a benchmark. That benchmark says that anyone who is found to have silicosis will receive 5,000 US dollars, a small amount, but even then there's something is back to nothing, is entitled to a relief of US dollar 5,000. If he is deceased, the amount is to be given to the next of the kin. And out of this, 1,500 1,600 US dollar is to be given to the next of the kin, and rest is to be kept in a fixed deposit, because the court also knows that they may just waste this amount if given one at a time. And so the commission now has become very active. They constituted an expert group in 2009 to look into this. And we have had several meetings. In last, I think, year we had 4 or 5 meetings with the commission, and we gave them many recommendations, many suggestions, some of which they have accepted. One of which I said that they accepted that TB should be declared as an occupational disease for any mine worker. Following this direction, I started my investigation in this state of Rajasthan, 30. And now this state has almost 40% of its revenue coming from the mine. That's why the mining is a very important activity for this state. So this is you see, most of these small and medium mining is informal, it's manual. Every job is to be done. These men are digging hole, somebody put a small explosive, and then this part will separate, and then these slabs are priced from the big boulders, and this you see on the right upper side, you see a man using a hammer. And so all of these operations they create, and this is all sandstone. This is a district Jodhpur, where I was told that in Jodhpur, in the vicinity of the city itself, there are 14,000 sandstone mines. Now you probably can't see, but if you see this huge amount of pure crystalline silica. And when the vehicles pass through, when the wind blows, this all gets airborne. And the city is not very far from here, so it is blown towards the city. And I was standing here actually. They told me that several workers, this is about 40 feet deep, several workers, they just fall down and get injured. And this all these are slabs which you see is sandstone. I went to all the districts. There are so many pictures, but I have just selected very few. This is a mine where you see the kind of housekeeping that's there. Hardly anyone to look after this safety part. Now, this of course, the one good thing is that they were sprinkling water, so at least the dust was not getting airborne. And this is our team. I'm very much here. These are all the officials of the mining department, some of the NGOs. We went to maybe dozens of mines to take a stop. Now see, can you imagine what is that? This is a rest shelter. It's 42 degrees Celsius, and this rest shelter is made of stone, where a worker is supposed to rest when he gets tired. When I went near, I touched, I had to remove my hand, it was so hot. So this is the kind of welfare facility that has been offered to these workers. And this quartz is taken, because quartz is mined, is taken to the crusher, and you can see this is all covered with dust. And these all bags, they are full with crystalline silica. And they are all handled manually and creates profound exposure. I think one see from a distance, but this is a cloud of dust, crystalline silica, which is coming out of a crusher, because this quartz is sent to this crusher, and there are hundreds and hundreds of such crushers, and there are thousands of workers in these crushers. These are the widows whose husbands have perished while doing the mining work. There are thousands of them. I've just shown you a few. And this is this is a very big hall. It's filled with people. I am sitting here, and they are some NGOs. These are the widows. They all came to me. You know, there were 1,000 papers. The chief has there were 1,000, all with complaints. Some of the complaints each will have dozens of workers. That how they have developed silicosis. They have not been given any relief. They are not getting any compensation. And all these women were just crying that where to go, because they are all literate. They just don't know the court proceedings and don't know how to write an application to get the relief. These are the workers. This is how these, I show you these bags. They are handled. This is the respiratory protection, a piece of cloth. So, the kind of minerals that are mined in the state, most of this sandstone comes from Rajasthan, which is 90% silica. And so there is granite. So mainly in this, India, this is known as the marble state of India. All the marble comes from this, but marble has a very low percentage of silica, only 2%. Mainly the granite, which is actually part of all the house building, and the sand. These two are the real culprits in this state. Of course, this is the same graph form, you can see it. So I just sifted through the old records, and I found that even as back in '93, there were reports of silicosis and tuberculosis reported from this one district, but no one took notice of that. So during my investigation, I was there to grill. These are all physicians, chest physicians, radiologists. They are the members of the pneumoconiosis board. So my job was to find from them what is their problem, why are they not able to function properly. And these are all the mine officials. So I went through all district-wise. This is another district in Bhilwara. I'm here, and all these are the pneumoconiosis board members. They are giving their side of the story, that why they are not able to. Of course, they have been doing a good job. They organize camps, and they try to screen. And now, the government has made a system that any person, unless he gets a certificate from the board, each district has a board comprising of a radiologist, a chest physician, and a physician. Unless the board certifies, the person cannot claim relief. So and this board, I'm quite happy to report they have been working quite well and very satisfactory. And this is in the one district. They reported that just one district, 56 deaths out of one. So you could see almost 50% workers they screened are turning out to be silicosics. That's the scale of silicosis. So till now, I asked the mining department. Officially they gave me this figure, but this is the real figure would be 10 times greater. So you are talking about a million workers there. As per the pneumoconiosis board members, that was the main cause of silicosis when this sandstone is cut through. So we went to various villages, we met the people, they are all victims of silicosis. And so this was our finding of the inquiry commission, that there was no effort directed at prevention. And employers, side story, always blame the workers. They also fail to institute any health surveillance. The members of the board, this is what they said, that they don't know how to establish diagnosis of silicosis. And they had no idea, they were not recording occupational and exposure history. So we wouldn't know that from where a person came. And dust levels were never measured. And so this, the other findings that the workers return back home in the same clothes, carrying loads of silica, exposing their family members. They work in mines and exposure continued despite having, this is an anxiety. Once a person develops silicosis, you tell them not to work, but they said, we have no option. We prefer to die working rather than die of hunger. And so these were the observations, number of observations we made and presented to the highest court, and I am hopeful that some action will be taken. And these are the recommendations we made, that physicians should record detailed exposure history. They should actually label the case whether acute, accelerated or chronic silicosis. COPD they should look for. Training, we organized training with Drexel University School of Public Health for these physicians. And we also, one of the things I told the members, the old Ramazzini dictum, I said, you must visit the mines. You must see how the work is being carried out. And of course, this very strong recommendation that TB should be regarded as an occupational disease in any work mine. So this is the, till now, there are 19,000, of course now the number must have gone up. Out of this, 9,000 silicosis have been given certificate, and out of this number has been given compensation. And this is the state, Gujarat, where these records are. So I would present this summary that both our highest court and the Human Rights Commission, they have involvement, actually their effort has actually started this activity of screening all the workers. And despite the observation of these bodies, the compensation process is very slow. It's a long, tortuous process. And many of the victims, though they have the certificate, they are not able to get relief. And they also, the court have said that that was another very important landmark judgment, that every mine should have a safety and health program regardless of number of workers. There was a cap that if you have less than 10, you don't have to worry. The court said no, even if there is one worker, you have to make arrangements. And also about the record keeping. So the Human Rights Commission is now very active. A national survey is now on. We will have good figures later. Directions are there to give to compensate all workers. But unfortunately, the human cost has still not caught the imagination of the society. The government that has not toughened regulatory mechanism, that is the weakest link. Very poor enforcement and some outdated law. So protecting, educating and compensating the silicosis victims will be India's biggest challenge in coming decades. Thank you very much for your attention.